Hello, welcome back to the Marketing Mindset. This is a weekly series we do here at AgencySparks, and our focus is on kind of sharing tips and tactics and things that are working well with marketers, both on the client side and on the agency side. And so this week I wanted to talk about a subject that's near and dear to our hearts here at AgencySparks, which is the agency and client relationship. And one of the things that we've been focusing on here is doing a better job of telling our story about how agencies and brands can communicate with each other and work with each other. But we also wanted to tell our story about how we put agencies through vetting processes to help make sure that there's a better match between client and agency. So I'll talk a little bit about both the relationship between agencies and clients and also about our vetting process and how we kind of make that work. So 4A's, which is the American Association of Advertising Agencies, did a study along with, I think, the Bedford Group, which is a search consultancy that's based here in Atlanta, on the tenure of agency relationships and how frequently those relationships turn over. And one of the things that we found from the study was that 1984, the average agency-client relationship was about 7.2 years. And then in 1997, it became 5.3 years. And in 2015, it was less than 3 years. And my guess is that it's even shorter tenure now today. So between all of those, we're seeing a lot more turnover between the agency and client relationship. And I think that with some better selection processes where we pair them better together, and also with better communications between agencies and clients, we could lengthen the tenure of those agency-client relationships, which could be good for both agency and client. So just really quickly, when I launched AgencySparks at the beginning of 2014, there were sort of two premises that led to it. One was that the way that clients bring on new agency partners is kind of broken. The process is broken. And because of that, we really started, AgencySparks was intended to focus on helping mend that client relationship and agency relationship by making better matches. The other thing is that most agencies rarely will tell the client what they're not good at. And so we wanted to really focus on making sure that agencies and clients could be really honest about what the agency is really good at and what they're not so good at. So because of those factors, AgencySparks exists today. And as we say, brands really struggle to find the right marketing agencies, and agencies really struggle to find the right brands to be clients. And so AgencySparks is the matchmaker between the two. So what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about the brand's perspective and a little bit about the agency's perspective in this matchmaking process. And so I want to tell you and a lot of the content for this conversation is actually being covered on a blog post that we'll be publishing tomorrow that's about the selection of agencies and the vetting process that we put agencies through and that relationship. So I want to start with the client's perspective and talk about 5 discussions that you should be having with your marketing agency. So first, clients can and should talk to their agencies about their big picture problems. It shouldn't just be about your marketing challenges. It should be about all of the challenges that the company is facing. Clients have a real right to clarify what agency resources are going to be used in working on their business, and so that conversation should happen up front. Thirdly, clients should define the agency capabilities, strengths, and limits up front, and focus on utilizing the biggest strengths of the agency and not using agencies for areas where they're weak. And so we'll talk a little bit about the vetting process and how that helps you uncover the real strengths of the agency. And then the fourth thing is having an open discussion about the costs for various tasks. So it may be that an agency provides you with an hourly billable rate for most projects, but then there may be smaller tasks that shouldn't be billed at that rate, or there may be really big tasks that could be even a higher rate. And then the other thing is clients should really convey the internal dynamics that affect any work that the agency may be doing. So those are sort of the 5 discussions that the agency should be having with the client, or the client should be having with the agency, I should say. On the flip side, there are some common mistakes that marketers make when they're making a selection decision. They don't always really focus on researching all of the case studies of the agency to understand if they might be a good fit. They don't always do a really good temperature check in terms of chemistry to make sure that there's chemistry there. They don't always focus on what the agency really does best in terms of specialization. And then they also don't necessarily always vet to make sure that the agency is the right size to handle the project or business that they're giving to the client, to the agency. So, does the client represent the largest agency in the pool? The largest client in the pool for the agency, or are they, just a small fish in a much larger pond? The other thing is there's a lot of communication issue that happens when procuring a new agency in terms of outlining the goals and objectives, and ensuring that the agency would be able to execute on the goals for the client, the real goals. And then the other piece is it a high priority for the client to have somebody local do the work, or are they also considering options that may not be local that may be a better fit? And then you have to balance the expense of the agency with the breadth of clients that they have, that kind of thing. So I'm going to jump over to the agency's perspective really quickly. A guy named Tim Leake, who is the chief marketing officer for an agency in Los Angeles called RPA, sort of came up with these 4 perspectives, and I'm going to share them with you. Focus on as much on internal communication as we do on mass communication. In other words, the communication between the agency and client is as important as the external communication that the agency delivers in the market. Working with clients to define a better understanding of the evolving roles of creativity. So how can we be more creative as an agency, but also what are the boundaries that the client sees as important? Third is supporting our clients and recognizing the distinction between different and risky. So coming up with something truly creative is important, but is it really risky? Is it really not going to resonate in the market? And then the last thing is practicing the art of business as much as the art of advertising. So as an agency partner, they should be focused on moving your business. I love to say one of our agencies is really focused on being, they're business people that understand how to use marketing rather than just marketers that do marketing for the sake of marketing. So I'm going to talk really quickly about the AgencySparks vetting process and why this is important to what we do and how it helps both the agency and it helps the client. So our vetting process, actually you can see it if you go to AgencySparks.com/vetting, and there are sort of 5 parts to the process. The first part is that we do an external evaluation of the agency where we talk to current clients of the agency. We talk to past clients who no longer work with the agency to understand, well, why were you attracted to them in the first place and why did you leave? And we also talk to clients that didn't select the agency in a pitch process. And that's always very intriguing because the client doesn't always give detailed information to the agency about why they didn't select them. They often will give them kind of a stock reason. But when we have a conversation with the client, they'll often tell us the real reason why they didn't pick the agency. So talking to various clients helps us have that external perspective. We also interview all the key staff within the agency to understand what they feel are the biggest strengths and weaknesses for the agency. And so those 2 aspects of external and internal are then paired with an analysis of the competitors, and we sort of look at the competitive set to understand, how big are they, where are they located, what kind of work are they doing, what kind of clients do they have, what's some of their key messaging, and that way we can see how the agency that we're working with stacks up to the competitive set. The fourth is a SWOT analysis, where we will then pull in all of those conversations into an analysis of the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats for the agency. And so pairing all of those together has been really powerful, both for the agency but also for the client, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then the last thing we do is we provide some advice and some direction based on what we've learned. And this helps the agency really focus on its core strengths. And from the client's perspective, it also helps them really know where to best utilize that agency. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why that vetting process is valuable to the agency, and then a little bit about why it's valuable to the client, and then we'll wrap things up. So first of all, from the agency's perspective, having an external partner like AgencySparks doing the vetting is important, because then, sorry about that. Having a third party doing the vetting is important because it allows the client to be much more honest than they would be directly with the agency. And the second thing is that we have real conversations with clients versus just doing a web survey or something like that, because we find that there's nuance often in the answer. So the first answer might be, well, we thought the agency had really great creative, but we thought their execution was poor. Well, then we can say, well, tell me more about that and help me understand why you felt their execution was poor. And we can help uncover the real reasons. We then synthesize all of that feedback and pair it with our own experience, which can be really useful for the agency to really understand how others in the market do the same kind of thing. And then we provide real takeaways for the agency to really help them understand next steps and how they can apply what we've helped them understand. From the client's perspective, our vetting process helps save them a lot of time and energy in evaluating a potential partner. It brings new potential partners into the mix that they maybe wouldn't have considered. Most clients ask around within their department or ask friends at another company what agencies they should consider, and they have a very limited universe when we do that. And so we help them expand their universe a bit. RFP processes are very arduous, and they often result in poor choices. So many clients have gone through an RFP process, and then by the end of the process, they realize that they didn't make a great selection of an agency. Plus, it takes up lots of time and energy. And our vetting helps clients cut through some of that process and be able to get closer to a good quality agency decision. The third party perspective helps eliminate bias. So often the client is biased in their feedback and opinions of the agencies that might be potential partners. And so working with a third party like AgencySparks helps that reduce the bias. And then the last thing is, our ultimate goal is making a perfect fit between the client and the agency. We've actually shifted our model a little to get rid of the commission part of our business, so that whether the client chooses one of our agency partners or not doesn't make a difference to us either way. Really, our job is to try to make the best possible match and the best possible fit between them. So just really quickly, I want to give you a couple of takeaways. Obviously, keep your eye on AgencySparks.com/blog for the blog post that we're publishing about this whole topic. But also for agencies that want to learn more about the vetting process that we put our agencies through, or clients that want to learn more about it, if you go to AgencySparks.com/vetting, that's one way you can learn more. Also, agencies can learn more about what we do for agencies by going to AgencySparks.com/foragencies. And from the brand's perspective, brands can learn. We have this amazing form that we've created that's sort of like a mini request for information or request for proposal form. And you can find that at AgencySparks.com/match. And that way you can fill out all of the things that you're looking for in a partner, and that begins the process where AgencySparks can pair you with the right agency partner. But also, we'll share some of the insights that we've learned from that vetting process to help ensure that the agency and client have a really strong match And hopefully that's the beginning of a really strong and long-term relationship and partnership between the agency and the client. So anyway, thanks for tuning in for the Marketing Mindset. We do this every week, and we look forward to hearing your feedback. Please do comment on these videos and provide us with anything you'd like to hear from us cover in the future. Thanks a lot.